Hey everyone, it's technology expert Burton Kelso with Integral here, sharing another tech tip to help you get the most out of the technology in your life. Today we're talking about the dark web. Sounds scary, doesn't it? But it isn't necessarily all that scary. The dark web has come up in recent months because of all of the data hacks that have been going on with um, retailers across the country and globe. The dark net, I think, is being used to scare a lot of people, but I think we need to take a look at exactly what is the dark web and how it's affecting your personal identity. We're going to switch screens like we always do and talk a little about the internet and all areas of it. So, the internet is basically broken up into three different sections. You've got the surface web, the deep web, and the dark web, which everyone is talking about. Sounds kind of scary, doesn't it, hearing the words dark web? But it isn't always as scary as you think, as I'll show in the following screens. So the surface web is what we all use. YouTube, Yahoo, Google, Reddit, CNN, and Bing, and other websites that you normally access through your browser, such as Internet Explorer, Firefox, Opera, and Chrome, can be accessed through the surface web. So that's the area of the internet that everyone is using to enjoy their favorite sites. Now, next is the deep web, which many organizations will store database records, financial records, documents, etc., and they can be accessed through a web browser, but they're in areas of the internet that don't have a normal URL or web address. So in order to get access to the dark web or the deep web, you would have to know the exact web address or the area where the files are located. And finally, there's the dark web, which has all your political protests, your drug trafficking, and all your illegal activity. And it's estimated that 96% of the content on the internet is on the dark web. So let's break it down a little bit more again. So there's the surface web. And it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. And let's see if we can roll back. And this kind of gives you an idea of how the internet is. So what you see on the surface or the main sites of the internet is not everything that is on the internet. So let's go back to the surface web. Surface web, again, hosts all of your favorite sites, such as Facebook, Netflix, Twitter, Tumblr, Amazon, and others. And most things that take place on the surface web can be tracked by your ISP or by other organizations. So the surface web is what we're all using right now. Next is the deep web, which is the middle of the iceberg. So again, it contains varying information that hasn't been published yet. Certain websites can be accessed if you know the web address and you have the authority to access it. So most sites in the deep web are legitimate sites. Larger corporations keep that information on the internet, and the government too, so that they can easily access that information without the public finding that information. So if you know the password and you've got a web browser, you can definitely access content on the deep web. And finally, back to our old dark friend, the dark web. The dark web is used by most people who buy illegal drug products, child pornography, and other nefarious things can be found on the dark web. The interesting thing about the dark web is that you can access it through a browser called TOR. And before we look at TOR, let's minimize that and show that TOR can be accessed from just about any browser out there. in any computer. So if you've got a Windows computer, a Macintosh, or even a Linux computer, you can definitely download the Tor browser and surf the dark web. But again, in order to get to the dark web, you do need to know exactly where you're going. Now, this is an actual Tor browser, and as you can see, it's out of date, which obviously I'm not using Tor, but it looks like your standard browser. Now, the dark web, unlike the surface web, is a lot harder to navigate, so you can't just type in any URL and find what you're looking for on the dark web. You can use a search engine built into DuckDuckGo if you're looking for specific stuff. So you can type that in, but specific websites on the dark web do require passwords, so it's not like if you're looking for something on Google, you can find it on the dark web. It is very hard to navigate, but you can download a browser and attempt to access the dark web. So not everything that's on the dark web is nefarious. Sometimes you've got people that are doing political protests that will post information on the dark web. Um, and there's other things that are shared on the dark web too that aren't necessarily bad. But keep in mind, it is the deepest part of the internet where a lot of information that people don't want the public to see hides. But just don't think that it's this area of the internet where all of this nefarious activity takes place. There is some legitimate activity that takes place on a dark web at a higher level than most of you would use computers, but unfortunately, like all things in life, there are areas where bad things happen. So hopefully that has kind of given you an idea of the dark web and how it works. Um, it's pretty, I would say, pretty simple to understand that there are varying levels of the internet. So just keep that in mind the next time that you surf, that when you're on the internet, you're only seeing what's going on the surface, and there's an area of the internet that contains more information than you can imagine. So hopefully that explains the dark web for you. As always, if you've got comments or questions, leave them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you to find out what tech tips you would like me to share in future videos. And speaking of videos, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels at Integral and Burton Kelso, as well as our social media channels. We're always sharing tips, tricks, and cybersecurity alerts to help you get the most out of your digital life. And I think that's all I can say about that. Be sure to follow us. So as always, folks, take care of yourself and do many things to make you smile. And thanks for watching.